In this next video tutorial, what we want to do is make a second tin, and this tin should be better than our first. We're going to deal with one of the problems we highlighted before, which is that we're over-interpolating across areas that have no survey data. There's no points in some of these areas. And so what I'm going to do first is create a feature class. And so I'm using the search tool to look for that, and then I'll use the create feature class tool, the toolbox. Okay, that comes up. I'm going to use my geodatabase as my location for the feature class. I'm going to make my feature class. Let's just call this survey extents, and I am going to make sure that it has the same coordinate system that we've been using throughout this exercise. And so it'll create that feature class, and it adds this blank survey extents into the file here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the tin to start, and I'm going to start an edit session. And now I'm going to use that survey extents, and I'm going to draw a polygon, and I'm going to zoom in so I can get a closer look at the points. And what I'm going to do is draw a polygon that attempts to prevent us from interpolating outside where there may be data. It's just a little bit hard to see with some of these points. I may change this back to a symbol that's going to be a little bit easier to see here. Okay, there we go. And so I'm just going along to the edge of my data. I'm using the middle mouse button to pan, drawing these features. Now I'm up at the top of my reach here. I've got to be careful. It doesn't, even though there are some bank data up here, it doesn't look like there's any data that goes across the channel, so I'm going to ignore that data out there and bring this in like so. You can see you can move along pretty quickly when you're drawing this boundary. Because there's only a few points up there, I'm not going to use those. And then to close this, I will right click and hit finish sketch. Okay, so now I've got a polygon around all my survey data. Now if there are big holes in that data that I don't really trust trying to over-interpolate across that, for example in here there was a bunch of vegetation. Maybe I will draw a little other shape in here that will exclude this area. So if I start drawing another polygon in this region, and then I finish that sketch. While that is still selected, I can go up to my editor menu and hit clip and then say discard the area that it intersects. And so what that's going to do is it's going to discard the area within the first polygon that's intersected by this new polygon. So I've done that. Now this is still selected, and if I hit edit delete, I can actually get rid of that polygon that I've drawn, and now I've got this island in that, or a donut, whatever you want to call it, in that original polygon. So let's give that a try to use in our new tin. So I'm going to stop editing this and go back to our toolbox, create a second tin. The second tin I'll call tin 2. Again, bring in the correct spatial reference. And then this time we're again going to use our Tobo survey points as mass points, but we're going to also add our survey extents polygon. Now this is critical. The shape field needs to be changed from its default to none. If you don't do that, what you're going to end up with is a waterfall off the edge of your tin because it'll use this value of the shape length of that polygon as a height field, and you don't want that. So no height field, and we want to change this to a hard clip. It's going to enforce so it won't let any interpolation across that surface. We hit OK and we let this do its job. The tin should come up pretty quick. I can't see it right away because it's underneath the tin 2. If I turn off the survey points and look in here, I can see that what this has done is a much nicer job of creating a tin where I actually have data. Okay, and so if I want to, I can turn on the other tin underneath, and so I can see those areas around us where the contours are, where this has over-interpolated and in the original tin. So by changing that boundary, we've improved how this looks quite a bit. Now, one of the things we have to be really careful on is that you can often get, as an artifact of these interpolations, you can get these dams that form upstream. So if we change this tin 2 and we change its symbology and we import it from tin 1 so that we have those same contours, we bring that on. Tin 2 doesn't look all that different from tin 1 in the areas within our polygon. If we turn off tin 1, what we've got here is a little dam. Now we've got to be careful with this reach because there are real beaver dams in this reach. But at this is an artifact of interpolation. And so what's happened here is that this point, because of how our polygon was drawn, is interpolating across to that point, and it's creating this dam of elevation. And so there's a couple of things we can do. We can go and we can re-edit our we can edit this original survey boundary that we had, and we can try and edit that so that we don't have that happening, and that will certainly work. Or we could use tin editing. And so if you don't have the tin editing toolbar, you can right click in a blank space, the toolbar space, and you can bring up tin editing. Okay, and the tin editing toolbar is similar to the editor toolbar, except it's only for tins. So once I have this tin editing loaded, this editing toolbar works in conjunction with the 3D Analyst toolbar. In the 3D Analyst toolbar, I need to make sure that I've got the tin that I want to edit selected. So I go to tin 2, okay? We want to edit our second tin. And then I go to start editing tin, okay? And in this tin editing toolbar, one of my options here is this modify tin data area. If I bring up that command, sometimes the box doesn't come up, but if I get that box up, what I want to do is I want to go selection within the polygon. Everything that's in that polygon I want to set outside my tin. So I'm going to draw a little polygon here, and then when I'm done, when I'm done, I'll double click. And what that did was it got rid of that bad area where there was a dam. And so if I'm happy with that change, I could hit save. I'm still editing, but I've saved my edits. And now I might move down to the bottom of the reach and check and see if I've got a similar problem. And indeed, it looks like I do. The stream should keep going out this way. And we've got this noise because of sort of a lack of survey points in the geometry of them. So I'm just going to get rid of this whole area right here. So I'm just going to draw a polygon and then get rid of those points from the tin. And now that's going to be a better representation of the data that we've got. Okay. So once I'm happy with those edits, I'll hit stop editing tin. I'll save those edits. And now I've edited that tin to look a little better. there's some other editing that we can do. So remember, I mentioned in here that some of these features did not seem overly realistic. That these points, that the edge of this bank probably went along like this, as opposed to having these big triangle wedges cut out of it, which were an artifact. So if again we edit the tin, we could have kept that same edit session open. We've got this command here, which is connect tin nodes, okay? And so if I bring up that dialog box for connect tin nodes, I can either do a hard or a soft connection, and this is basically things where I have a hard grade break, like at the top of a bank here, I would use a hard break line. Otherwise I would use a soft. It was a more gradual break and slope. And so what I can do is I can basically connect these 2 points. You see how it's snapping to those points? And then it fixes that little anomaly there. Similarly, I could connect these 2 points, right? And so I can edit this so that that looks like a more realistic bank line. Now this is where it becomes much more helpful if in our symbology we have on here a categorical symbology based off of that code. And if I add in values, I probably want to use everything that was a potential grade break. And so like my top of bank and my toe of bank and my grade break lines are all very good lines to use, okay? And so now that those are going to be a different color, and I'll even make them a different symbol than the rest of the points here. Now I can see where those grade breaks are, right? And so I can see these top of bank points and make a little bit better judgment. So here's a really nice example of where we've got some problems. And so I could edit that to connect those 2 dots, edit that to connect those 2 dots, and edit that to connect those 2 dots. And so what I'm doing is I'm manually inserting break lines. And break lines have a huge difference on making this topography a better representation of what's out there. Okay? And so we're going to now make a third tin. And in that third tin, we are going to use break lines that I've provided to you instead of doing these manual editing of break lines. Let's go ahead and hit Save Edits. You won't always have those break lines from the raw data, and so it's a good thing to know how to do these manual edits when tin editing. Okay, on to the next video tutorial.